I am prepared to tell you that I would, at this point, sign an arrest warrant for one or more persons for the crime of murder.
That's not an internet theory. That's a judge, someone who's signed these exact warrants before, for actual cases, in actual courtrooms. Here's who he is, and what pushed him to this point.
Good evening, friends. I'm attorney Carlos Moore, coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia this evening. I'm currently a practicing attorney in Tennessee. I'm a former Mississippi judge. I sat on the bench in Mississippi for 6.5 years in not one, but two jurisdictions. I was on the municipal bench in Clarksdale, Mississippi from 2017 to 2024. And I was on the municipal bench in Grenada, Mississippi from 2020 to 2024. So I had several years of experience. I had the authority to sign search warrants, arrest warrants. I had the authority to preside over arraignments, initial appearances, and preliminary hearings for trial for individuals accused of various offenses up to and including murder. So come on in, share this with your friends and family, and we are ready to talk about the autopsy and where we go from here.
Nolan Wells was 18, a community college student and athlete that friends describe as always looking out for others. His mother reported him missing on the 4th of July. 2 days later, his body was found in the water off Horn Island. His family didn't trust the local officials with his autopsy, so they went and got their own. What the outside pathologist found raises more questions than it answers.
All right, so the family commissioned an autopsy, an independent autopsy, because they did not trust the local officials, and they decided to hire attorney Ben Crump and ask him to have an independent autopsy done. So he commissioned Dr. Roger Mitchell out of Washington, D.C. Dr. Mitchell is a well-respected forensic pathologist. He has been the chief medical examiner for Washington, D.C. He's been the president of the National Medical Association, and he's also been over the hospital at Howard University. So he's very well respected. I've known Dr. Mitchell for over 14 years. He's actually done some forensic pathology work for me, independent autopsies, and some of the cases I handle when I was practicing in Mississippi and other places. So he's very well respected. He did the independent autopsy for me after Antoine Shumpert was killed under suspicious circumstances in Tupelo in 2015. So I'm very appreciative of the thorough work that he does. So here are the results. First and foremost, the results were inconclusive. He could not tell the cause of death. Dr. Mitchell could not rule out definitively foul play or external factors. So right at the very beginning, he could not rule out foul play after conducting a forensic exam of Nolan Wells. And that's different from Sheriff Ledbetter of Jackson County, who within 1 day of Mr. Wells being found dead stated that no foul play was suspected. So he had done no exam, was not qualified to do an exam, and immediately came to that conclusion. So that's why everyone has been up in alarm since that time, and the family, rightfully so, got an independent autopsy. And Dr. Mitchell has stated that he still is unable to rule out foul play. It could have been foul play. He could not give us a definitive cause of death at this time. He did notice a red discoloration in the soft tissue at the back of Wells' head. However, he stated that it remained unclear whether it was caused by blunt force trauma or simply natural decomposition. So it's possible that it was a result of blunt force trauma, but he could not state that to a reasonable degree of medical certainty at this time. He was able to say that there were no wounds or fractures. He didn't find any deep tissue injuries, lacerations, or bone fractures on the body. He did say that the body was severely decomposed due to the alleged time that Wells spent in the water. He could not accurately assess the skin surface for any signs of bruising or abrasions.
But it's not what the pathologist found that's raising eyebrows. It's what he was never given access to in the first place. And the reason why is its own mystery.
He had some limitations that were not of his own makings that hindered him in coming to some final conclusions at this point. He was missing the neck structures. Parts of Nolan Wells' throat and neck interior were absent from the body because they were retained by the state investigators for further evaluation. Without those neck structures, Dr. Mitchell could not rule out whether a neck injury was a contributing cause of death. So that's very important. We already know that he possibly could have had some blunt force trauma to the back of the head, but he could not determine if the man may have been strangled or anything because he didn't get the neck structures. The state of Mississippi decided to keep the neck structures. Why didn't they just take a specimen, a sampling of the neck, and send some of the neck structures to Dr. Mitchell to examine? Or why not invite him to Mississippi to examine the neck structures? But they're mysteriously missing. And so that's a very key piece of evidence. It seems that all of the key pieces of evidence Mississippi kept back. The state had already dissected the internal organs. They did not send, I don't believe, the lungs. Dr. Mitchell stated he could not observe the lungs for water intake to verify drowning. So that's very important. He also could not analyze the stomach contents. I was listening to a coroner out of Richland County in South Carolina. She was saying that normally the stomach contents are put into a container so that they can be analyzed. Dr. Mitchell should have had access to these stomach contents to see what the stomach contents were. I mean, he could analyze them, and certain things would tell him whether or not this man died from a drowning. And he also did not have access to any original toxicology results from the state. So he was hampered in his findings. But it's very, very, very concerning about that red discoloration. And then what's the reasoning that the neck structures were held back?
So the pathologist was left with more questions than answers. Judge Moore says the blame for that doesn't sit with him. It sits with the people who had the body first, and with one official in particular, whose track record he's about to lay out.
A lot of questions. I heard Attorney Crump to say that he's trying to find answers for the family, but he's left with more questions than answers at this time. And a lot of this is in the purview of Mississippi, the state of Mississippi. They had the body first. They got to the body first. They saw the body positioning when it was first found. So we want the Jackson County coroner, Bruce Lynn, to be very transparent and do his job. We want the chief state medical examiner, Stacey Turner, Dr. Stacey Turner. She's also a forensic pathologist, to do her job. They have been very concerning. Their actions have been very concerning to date to me. Dr. Stacey Turner, for one, I think the past 5 black young people that have been found dead under suspicious circumstances, she has not once ruled that any of that was a result of foul play. It's always some asinine reason that pales belief. She thinks people are committing suicide when their legs are broken. It's just not going to happen.
That's her record with this case, but Judge Moore says the bigger problem isn't just who's investigating, it's who was never asked to testify at all.
This young man no one till today has stated that they saw Nolan Wells take a dive, take a swim, and have any sign of distress. And so Dr. Mitchell even said the investigation would need to reveal how Nolan Wells got into the water. Was it voluntarily? Was it involuntarily? Was it by force, or was it voluntarily? But no one has ever come forth and said that he took a swim or a dive and had some distress. And so that's very concerning. The lack of that eyewitness testimony. You had 200, 300, 400 people out on that island for the 4th of July, and not one person has come forth to say that they saw him go under. If he had went under voluntarily, taking a swim or dive, someone surely should have been able to see that and report that easily without a lawyer. They could have saved their hard-earned money if it was just a dive or swim and he got in a current or something that it took him under. That is easy enough to report, but that has not happened. And we are way past 2 weeks now since he was confirmed dead.
Quick ask. If you're following this case, subscribing means you'll see it the moment there's an arrest. Judge Moore isn't just pointing at the sheriff and the medical examiner anymore. He's calling in reinforcements and naming names.
So other folks that need to do their job have a role to play in this investigation. You have the Mississippi Commissioner of Public Safety, Sean Tyndall. He is over the MBI and the Highway Patrol, the state troopers. He could have the MBI to come in and assist with this investigation. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. The Mississippi Attorney General is over the Public Integrity Division. There are a lot of people suspicious now of the public officials. People are suspicious of the medical examiner. They are suspicious of one judge in particular. They are suspicious of the sheriff of Jackson County. They're suspicious even of other officials in Jackson County. So at this point, some people are saying this is a great cover-up. And until Lynn Fitch's office, she's the Attorney General of Mississippi, has a Public Integrity Division, sent some investigators down there to see if there has been any kind of cover-up, obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence by elected or appointed officials. People are going to continue to sound the alarm and be very suspicious. So I believe it's time to turn on the light, bring the light of day to every agency that's involved with this investigation.
That's the state side he wants held accountable. Before he even gets to the federal government, he points to one other case and one other prosecutor as a warning.
We know with Ahmaud Arbery, they even had to investigate the prosecutor. She did some things where she was just refusing to prosecute the person or persons responsible for the death of Ahmaud Arbery, and she ended up being prosecuted herself. So don't sleep on Angel. She may not be doing anything, and she may be. You won't know until you investigate it if she's doing anything improperly. And so if she's doing everything by the book and doing it proper, she shouldn't have any problem with anyone coming around investigating. Do a very thorough investigation. In this instance, I wouldn't trust anyone. Don't give anybody the benefit of the doubt. I believe we need to shine the light on everyone. What possessed Sheriff Ledbetter to say that no foul play was suspected within 24 hours of them finding Nolan Wells? Here you have a forensic pathologist that still cannot rule out foul play, but the sheriff with no medical degree, and I don't even know if he has a college degree, was just so ready to say that no foul play was suspected. That stinks to high heaven, and I'm never going to forget that. That's why I joined the NAACP and others in calling for the United States Department of Justice to come in and look at this. The FBI is already involved. I want the FBI to do more than look at those death threats that judge and her family is getting. I want them to look at the evidence that leads to a conviction for those responsible for what could be the murder of Nolan Wells. Do more than look after their interests, but look after the interests of Nolan Wells so that he and his family can get justice. We want the U.S. Attorney out of the Southern District of Mississippi to go on record and say something about this case. He needs to make sure that his office has an open file and is doing due diligence and doing a concurrent investigation. We do know that Horn Island is federal property, and they have concurrent jurisdiction with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. We would like the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice to get involved and bring their resources to bear, because there has been a lot of racial undertones, and they need to determine if race had any part to play in Nolan's disappearance and his ultimate death. It all deserves a very thorough investigation.
Now comes the moment he said he was waiting for. After weeks of holding back, he's ready to answer directly.
So where do we go from here? I do believe at this point, and I told you that I wanted to wait. When I did my first or second live, I told you I needed to see the autopsy report before I could determine if I would sign, if I was still on the bench in Mississippi, if I would sign an arrest warrant for one or more persons related to this case for the murder of Nolan Wells. I told you at that time I had enough evidence. There was enough evidence that if someone brought me a search warrant to sign, I would have signed it for certain things. But I left, and I told you about some lesser crimes that I would have signed an arrest warrant for, lesser crimes. But the ultimate question of murder, with my 6.5 years of experience as a municipal judge, at this point, sitting here today on July the 22nd, 2026, if an investigator brought me an affidavit recounting several things, including the discoloration behind the head, I am prepared to tell you that I would, at this point, sign an arrest warrant for one or more persons for the crime of murder. I do believe circumstantial evidence leads me to believe that it is more likely than not that Nolan Wells was murdered rather than he just accidentally drowned. And I have come to this conclusion, and if it was properly documented and sent to me, if I had still been on the bench, I would sign an arrest warrant for one or more persons. The circumstantial evidence, the suspicious evidence, putting all that together would lead me to sign that arrest warrant.
And that circumstantial evidence isn't abstract. He lays out, piece by piece, exactly what doesn't add up, starting with a phone that should have never left Nolan's hand.
You had Nolan Wells yelling for someone to give his freaking phone back, allegedly. You had Nolan Wells' phone not found on his person, but found on land at someone's home. And that person did not call the police to report a phone missing. That person did not voluntarily take it to Nolan's parents' home or contact them to let them know that he had the phone. That person kept the phone, and not only kept it, but either that person or someone that person gave access to allegedly deleted text messages and deleted pictures from Snapchat. And that's all alleged. But if that's true, that's very suspicious. And then the keys to the car, no one voluntarily took the keys to the father. The father had to go ask for the keys, and there was some kind of delay there. So that's all very suspicious. It's very suspicious, too, that certain friends did not help look for Nolan Wells on the next day, on July the 5th. I understand that those friends went and had breakfast and went on with their regular day. That's very suspicious for someone who calls themselves a friend of Nolan Wells. It's also suspicious, and I happened to attend the funeral on Monday. It's very suspicious to me that those same individuals did not attend the funeral of their so-called friend. That's very, very suspicious. If you are such a friend of someone that you grew up from childhood to adulthood, but you don't attend their funeral to express your condolences to their parents in person. I saw some other people that some of you Facebook sleuths have criticized. I even took a picture with at least one of the guys you've criticized, but yet and still he was at the funeral. He did not care about you criticizing him and saying he may have had something to do with it. Javon and Jalen were there at the funeral, and I took a picture with both of them. They were there, and I believe both of them were pallbearers, and I witnessed them physically weeping at the funeral. So that's the normal reaction of your friends when your friend dies suddenly. So they were there, and I witnessed that, and I also witnessed that those others were not there. Very suspicious. Very, very suspicious.
One more account complicates things. Katie, who was with Nolan before he disappeared, a phone, a set of keys, a funeral some friends never showed up to. On their own, none of it proves anything. Together, a judge says it's enough to sign a warrant.
So the phone, the conflicting stories. Katie says one thing and the boys say another thing. The Coast Guard said one thing and then they had to correct themselves and said someone called, one of those three friends on the boat called at 11 p.m. on Saturday night and inquired about Nolan Wells, but did not say enough for them to open up an official investigation and start a search. So all of that taken in conjunction with what was revealed from the independent autopsy preliminarily today would lead me at this point to say there's probable cause for an arrest of one or more persons for the murder of Nolan Wells.